Hello, 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 everybody. We are here with the full house tonight. And by a full house, I don't mean the room here, which seems to have a few people here, but I mean the Gauthier home. We have Kalina, myself here. Kalina's on the other side of the room, and she'll be chatting with us later here. We got myself, we got Jeremy, who's sleeping, and we have little baby who was sleeping but seems to be stirring, which means she'll probably be getting up pretty soon to join us also. Another reason we're not on camera is it's real close to feeding time. Kalina's got to be able to breastfeed and or pump, and that's not something that she wants to share with all of you guys on camera either tonight, so we're just going to keep it off camera, but we're still rocking and rolling with all the stuff we got to do today, guys. Today is a long time coming. You have not seen Kalina or myself in over a month. You might have seen us talk here and there on Facebook, share a little bit about our new baby girl. And for those of you who might just be joining us this month and didn't see last month's post, yes, that is correct. Kalina and I are new parents to a beautiful baby girl, Lilith Satori Gauthier, the most amazing little girl in the whole wide world, and she is a little over 4 weeks. 4 weeks as of the day before yesterday. So amazing, guys. She's really the light of our life, and we're tired as hell because we're 40, and Kalina's a first-time parent, and I haven't done the new parenting thing for 20 years, which is the age of my son right now. But still, all of you who are parents or who know and have watched parenting at its closest, that the difficulties that can come with parenting are well overcome by the wonderful gifts that you receive from being a parent. So
that, and when you're 40, you don't have like a plethora of family members around you. Like, you might when you're in your 20s.
Yes. And like Kalina said, we don't know if you guys can hear us or hear Kalina very well, but like she said, when you're in your 20s, you tend to be living a little closer to where your family is. And we've got family close, but at this age, everybody's got their own kids. They're doing their own things. And Kalina's family lives a ways away. So, having a son like mine, with all the problems he has and all the conditions that he has and all the care that goes with him, it's like taking care of a newborn in a 20-year-old body, and now we've got two of them. So
you call them twins.
Yeah, the twins.
I want to say hi to everybody, by the way. Sometimes do that. I just get started without saying hi.
Yeah, and Kalina, if you guys can't hear, she is going to be moving in closer here after she's taking care of her stuff for the baby. So thank you guys. Hello, Connie, and hello, Galactic Travel Channel, which is our dear Casey. We love you guys so much. Thank you for coming here tonight. Of course, we're here tonight, and we're running a little bit late, but that's kind of par for the course, especially now with baby and stuff. That might even be more relevant than before. So I'm imagining that in the next 3 nights, we have one each night. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the Q&A from June, and then we hit July. The first night will be the in-depth poll winner, which is actually second place for this poll, and then we're doing the July Q&A. So right now, I'm looking at what it was, and it was a tie in the voting polls between two subjects: hybrid children and 5G technology, the AI and natural timelines. So I'm going to let Diffie decide which one of those to do today. I'm going to let him talk that through, and then whatever he doesn't choose today, the other one will be talked about for the July one. And we originally just said, well, we're going to take second place because we anticipated on getting the June ones caught up 2 weeks ago, but because of us still not having had adjusted to that point yet with new baby.
She was born early too, so that's part.
Yeah, of course.
She had some blood sugar issues.
Right.
She had problems gaining weight, so we had to keep taking her to specialists, but she's doing well now. Oh my gosh, she's eating like a champ, guys.
Oh my God, she is. And thank you for letting us know you can hear Kalina too. That's wonderful. Yeah, she was. She had a little rough of a start with her blood sugar issues. Kalina had some blood sugar issues with the gestational diabetes and the preeclampsia, which were all, pretty big in Western medicine perspective. But
it's gone now, though.
Yeah.
Diabetes.
Yeah, of course. Hence the name gestational. So Kalina's doing better. Baby's doing better, and we're still getting used to the feeding every two. With our kid, actually, she can feed sometimes every hour, sometimes every hour and a half. But for the most part, 2 to 3 hours is the longest she goes between the feedings. So that means we're taking turns up and down. I take the late shift. Kalina gets the earlier, vice versa, just depending on what's going on with Jeremy, if he's going to school or not during the summer, stuff like that. So it has been a very lightly slept month for us. Sometimes we're averaging less than 3 hours a night.
Mine's like 2.
And sometimes we're trying to take naps within the place we can. But being tired, like I said, a very, very small price to pay for the amazingness of having this beautiful baby in our life. And she is an amazing kid, you guys. Hopefully, if we get the cameras up tomorrow, you'll be able to meet her face to face, regardless whether it's tomorrow or not. Before our 4 days is up, we're going to get on camera. We're going to get Lily up here, and we're going to introduce her to everybody, so that all of you can meet the newest addition to the Gauthier family.
She's insanely smart too. We were
Yes.
surprised. She's amazing. She's just a really old soul, and
Yeah. She's a sturdy, highly adaptable kid.
yeah, I have some stories that when I get the chance, I want to shoot a video and share with you guys, like from my experience, and then Rob, if he wants to come in and share it too when I get the chance. It's just we haven't quite had the chance. We wanted to basically get to you guys first before anything, because you guys have been waiting. But it's just amazing. We can't wait to share with you guys everything. We're just enamored with her.
Oh man, she is amazing, and her brother loves her a lot. Jeremy doesn't show affection in the standard traditional way very frequently, and when he does, it's usually only with me. He'll touch my face and pull me in close to hug him, stuff like that. But one way you can tell without the traditional sense that Jeremy is loving something or enjoying it is if every time he hears it, he turns his head and intently listens, and then after a while of listening, just smiles and gets excited, rocking back and forth. And every time he hears his sister, whether she's just making noises or whether she's actually crying, to get our attention, to say, "Hey, mom, dad, feed me," or "Hey, change my butt," whatever the reason she's upset, Jeremy just loves it. He really just enjoys every single minute of it. And it really is an amazing thing. So we're really happy. Our family, as beautiful as it's always been, as beautiful and cohesive as it's always been, with Kalina stepping in, being step parent of the millennium, with Jeremy now stepped up to full blast birthing mother, and it's a whole new experience for both of us, and a beautiful one. So thank you guys for being patient through this.
And this is literally the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just the most beautiful, most unconditional love experience I've ever had. This girl has my heart. I keep joking with her, saying, "Well, I always said no one would ever get my soul, but you have it."
Yeah.
Got my heart, got my soul, got everything. There's nothing I wouldn't do for her.
She's the ultimate heart burglar. She steals our hearts quickly. And that's the thing, too. Me and Kalina had talked about this several times while Kalina was pregnant, that being in utero, the baby was able to have intimacy with mom and was able to have time. And I would do that, too, from the outside. But just not being able to feel that life within me, or not being able to really feel her react as I have different emotions, things like that. That's a really special time for a mother too, to have that beauty of the initial interaction, regardless of the level of intimacy that I was able to have with her before. It's just the feelings of love kept growing and growing, and every time I was like, it's getting more real. We're second trimester. We're getting right around the corner from having this baby. It intensified to a level that was almost painful. It was just amazing. And then the last month was very intense. I just never, I didn't think that love would be able to keep growing. And, I know it's silly, but people who've had 2 children might understand this. There was that concern, what happens if the baby's born and I don't love her as much as I love Jeremy, or what happens if I love her more than I love Jeremy, things like that. It's just like having 2 family members, a brother and a sister, a mom and a dad, 2 sisters. It's not that you love any of them more or less. It's that you love them in their own different special. You have a special relationship, and the love comes from that. And just like Jeremy, when he was born, as soon as Lilith was born to the outside world and was in my arms, I just fell more in love with her than words could explain. So it's just an amazing thing, guys. And we know that a lot of people, when they see us slow down on content, jump out of Patreon, and Patreon's been really helpful with us to supplement some of the income that we lose from not being able to be like the Brad Johnsons and the other people who are able to channel multiple times per day. Brad, I use him for an example because he's the guy who's out there literally all day, every day. He'll channel 10 times in a day. And financially that can create really good abundance for people. But for me, energetically, I can only channel twice a day. And with our schedule, we're usually only able to do once a day, 4 times a week for 2 weeks. No, before she was born, 1 time per day, 4 times a week, and then 2 times per day, 4 times a week. So this helps implement or supplement the income there, and it also helps because we can't do daytime sessions anymore. We're only able to do the nighttime sessions because 9 o'clock is really about the only time during the day where Kalina, myself, and baby are all in as best sync as possible. All of us are wide awake.
Temporary, the daytime.
Yeah, of course. And another month, I hope, or less.
Yeah, little tiny newborns, they don't have a circadian rhythm yet, and their tummies are so small they have to feed regularly. And once they get the circadian rhythm in, and they're able to sleep longer, and their stomachs are bigger and able to hold more milk, and eventually have solids, it gets easier.
Yeah, and so, just like with Jeremy when he was younger, there'll be a day where we wake up early in the morning and say, what the hell? She didn't wake up for her feeding last night. And then find her sleeping perfectly well and ready to take the new day on. So that time's coming, but as we all know, it's different for every baby, but there's at least a few months in the beginning where she will continue to do that. And as she does that, that means we're going to just stick to the nighttime sessions because it's easier, especially when Jeremy's here and he's going to school and he's got to get up at 4 in the morning, stuff like that. It's easier just to do the nighttime. But when we get back to the daytime, there are a few people on the calendar from previously that I'm going to make up that we're going to force daytime sessions with. But after we catch up with everybody who we had to reschedule, who put themselves in the calendar after the mark of June 1st, we're going to take care of those guys and then, go back. But anyway, I know that's not really an important thing. I'm kind of babbling on. Yeah, I always do this, guys. I talk and talk and talk. But anyway, we're going to do this tonight. We're going to channel. I'm going to start getting ready. Going to get my neutralizing on, and then we're going to have Aridif talk about either hybrid children or 5G technology, the AI, and natural timelines. And I believe the natural versus AI timelines is talking more about the fifth density six-dimensional energy as evolution stands between the artificial intelligence compared to humanoid or what do they call them? Biological entities. So, physical biological entities. So either way, I think that's what that means. We're going to let Aridif choose which one to do now and which one to do at a later time. And once that happens, it'll really be great, guys. So anyway, we'll start off with that. We're going to hit neutralize here in just a second. Before we do, what else is there? What else? Oh, yeah, and another thing too, guys, with the changes in hours, times, the baby and scheduling, this has to pertain to Patreon, and that's why I'm talking to you guys about it. Some of the other stuff with the sessions of other people had nothing to do with you guys, and I still shared. But we're also going to be moving soon. We're on a waiting list to a place in Kalamazoo, like in town Kalamazoo, that has 4 bedrooms. And once that happens, we're going to have our own office for this work and only this work. So this means when we do the Patreon next time, it doesn't matter if the kids are doing cartwheels down the hallway, we're still going to be able to jump on and do this because we'll be able to, or at least I will be able to jump on and do this depending, because we'll have our own dedicated space for that. And that's one thing we've never had in Sturgis and here where we live now. Both times we always had to set up our computer in our general living space because there was no room elsewhere for it. And by doing that, that means any interruption is definitely an interruption. And, Kalina's on standby with the baby, so tonight we're not going to have any interruptions. But, her asking follow-up questions to whatever subjects talked about might be a little different tonight than normal. We don't know. But we are going to do the Q&A tomorrow where Kalina will be highly active, and we might find someone to help back up moderate just in case Kalina has to deal with the baby or some other way. But either way, tomorrow your questions will get answered, and we're going to talk more about that before we start tomorrow. So we can just jump into tonight, guys. Give this channeling for the poll winners of July and June. June tonight. We're going to do the June winner first. And then we're going to come back to you guys and just get ready to channel. So we're going to shut down the audio. Please do me a favor too, guys. If you see new people coming in saying, hey, have they started yet? You can let them know that we're going, or that we're just neutralizing. I'm going to use Kalina's account under her beautiful face and the icon, and I'm going to tell everybody that we're getting ready to neutralize. But just in case, if you see that, guys, that would be great. If not, it's not your responsibility, so don't worry about it. By all means, you don't have to do anything, but if you can, that would be great, guys. Anything else with you before we start our poll winner for the month, in-depth session?
No, just a couple things. Well, no, actually, yes, a couple things. The pump won't be going on forever.
I don't even know if they're able to hear it.
I don't know, maybe. And also, I had the summer cricket thing playing in the background. We're not actually anywhere in the south, but you can hear the crickets. It's recorded sounds on the phone. I just forgot to turn it down before we started because I was busy.
I actually find that highly relaxing.
It's very relaxing, but I have to turn it down because I keep getting messages. Somebody keeps pinging me on Facebook.
Oh yeah, you can shut your phone down if you need to.
I will when I get a hand to do it. And that's the other thing. I have to really work on my milk supply because, as you guys know, our baby had to get. I had to get induced 3 weeks early because of preeclampsia, and ended up laboring for like 36 hours, and then she couldn't pass through the canal. It was getting too dangerous with my blood pressure, so they had to put me in for a cesarean, and cesareans and things like preeclampsia can cause an issue with milk production. So I've been working with a lactation specialist, so that's why you hear me like It's like when I have to pump, I have to pump. When I breastfeed, I have to breastfeed. And we have been having to supplement a little, like, either with donor milk, and then now we've got organic formula. But I really am a big believer in breastfeeding because of the antibodies, and it's just the most beautiful thing. And to me, it's like physical manifestation of going straight from the heart chakra. So I will do whatever it takes. So even if you hear that in the background in the future, if it's a little annoying sounding, I'm sorry, but I have to do it when I have to do it. Like before and after feedings, whenever I can. Of course, I can't do it every hour like she's been lately because that's a little sore. But,
yeah, and sometimes she goes for that.
Every 3 hours I try. So when it lands right, when it lands right into, a what am I trying to say here? Not a session,
a Patreon channeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize if that's annoying, but I try to keep it, 15, 20 minutes. I know I've been a little bit longer probably tonight.
I don't think you hear. We've only been on for a few minutes. I mean,
yeah.
So
but
we should be all right.
Usually, like, for all the conditions that I had, it's actually amazing that apparently it's amazing what I'm putting out. So for all, like I said, it's really beautiful to be able to feed her too. It's almost like an extension from her being in utero. So anyway, sorry that was a bit long-winded, but I just wanted you guys to know that I won't be pumping all the time throughout the whole night.
Yeah, well, with that said, guys, we're going to jump in it. We're going to do it to it, and we're going to rock and roll. We're going to jump into the in-depth channeling, let Aridif talk about whatever the subject is that he chooses between hybrid children and 5G technology, AI, and natural timelines. And once he gets done talking about that, Kalina will take what's been talked about or her own intuition and instinct and expand on those questions that she has about that, which she'll be choosing and pulling from that intuitive / mental state to help you guys have better understandings of the subject too. So we're going to leave it at that, guys. Rock and roll time, 5-7 minutes. We'll be back after I get some Aaron Freeman Golden Monkey on and get that going through my headphones. And I love you guys, and we'll see you in 5 to 7 minutes. And please feel free to let people know if they're coming in that we'll be back. And I'm going to put that up on the chat right now under Kalina's name. Love you guys, and see you in 5 to 7. All right, now for real, guys, because I had to send the message out from Kalina's and then go back to my account so I can mute it down. Almost there. All right, guys. See you in 5 to 7. All right, everybody, we're going to start in just a second here. Sorry, the neutralizing time took quite a bit longer than we anticipated, but we did have to have our checkup on Lily and Jeremy too. So yeah. Anyway, it's going for it. Yeah, it's definitely good. And to let you know, sweetie, because you're not there, Connie said I just sent it directly to your email. It said it should get there in 5 minutes, so let her know if it makes it.
Okay.
All right.
You sent it to her already, or you sent it to me to send to
well, I sent you something, but Connie also sent you something.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I misread Connie's first initial thing. Oh, I see. She was having trouble with registry at Amazon, so she was just letting you know that she tried to send some gift cards and put some money on the registry. And thank you guys, everybody who put energy time towards the registry or donated things to us for the baby. We appreciate it so much, because if it wasn't for you guys and for our family, we definitely would have been in big trouble. The donation milk from the hospital is so expensive, and we've been living off that till last week, and that took away a lot of our savings. And if it wasn't for you guys, we would definitely not have had all the stuff we needed to for Lily. So thank you guys too. And for those of you who are just here on Patreon, that's also been a huge help, because that's what gets us pushed through and gets us set up for everything. So thank you guys anyway. We really appreciate that too. I'm going to just take another breath or two.
What if we keep that bag at the door further away?
Yeah, if you need to, it's just if it's not too close and someone sees that, might complain if it's on the ground. Yeah, do whatever you need to, baby.
Yeah, I'll go.
Like I said, if you need to, do it. That's fine. Your water's here too. I left you that water. I'm using this one. All right, guys. I'm gonna take another breath or two. All right, guys. I'm gonna take one more drink of water, and we're jumping in. And if you hear the background noise, Kalina just had to step outside for a second. All right, guys. We'll see you on the other side. Love ya. We enjoy the channeling. Greetings to all, this is Aridif, that is R-I-D-I-F, and this is its spelled. We understand that all of you desire to hear more about and to connect with the ideal that is of hybrid children. Before diving into this construct, we must express the two things in which we have always expressed. First, above and beyond all things expressed within this evening to know, feel, and to perceive that you are loved is of the utmost importance. Secondly, it is our greatest excitement, and within that greatest excitement in which we co-create with all, individually and collectively, in this moment and through all moments of your linear time. Thirdly, we wish to express greetings, Kalina.
Greetings, Narada.
It is a great pleasure to co-create with you yet again.
It is always a pleasure to co-create with you. And Jeannie's excited to see you too.
Yes, it's been some time for the entity that you call Chini. As we understand, her perception of time stretches out much more than the human perspective. We are grateful for you as well, Chini. Yes, now we will dive into the construct of hybrid children. First of all, understanding and knowing what hybrid children through our own definition is of vital importance. In our own perspective, hybrid children goes beyond the spectrum and scope that most humans perceive. Most humans hold only to the definition of hybrid children being that in which extraterrestrials or extra-dimensionals take their own DNA and co-create that with human form. In that construct, yes, of course, that is a hybridized version, but it is only a hybridized version of human being. In our own perspective, hybrid children are spectral as any two races within the galactic collective consciousness that are not naturally compatible genetically and through their own means of DNA and biologically compatible must work within splicing of DNA, and those who are naturally adapted have what we would call the natural hybridization. In that construct, we are taking out the two-thirds spectrum outside of the human construct and energy that surrounds hybridization and only work in this evening with the hybrids of human beings upon your Earth Collective. Now, first of all, we must express that those who create with human beings do so for multi-purpose and multi-energetic purposes and reasons, and those energies we will touch on as we go through. The means and mechanics in which this occurs also on high spectral energy. Most humans think of the hybridization, and most humans only comprehend or perceive those that are zeta reticuli gray or gray beings, co-creating with and hybridizing themselves with human beings. But as we've expressed many times, and as all of you are well aware, there are multiple races that share their own DNA with human beings and Earth structure. In that energy, although it is most common to hear from or to connect with those that are the Grazer reticuli hybrids in human structure, this evening we will cover all of the energy spectrum that we are able to with your linear time constraints. So, that being expressed, we will start sharing with the means in which it occurs. There are multiple ways to hybridize energies. First, in natural order, which is the sexual construct in Congress. That energy is the natural hybridization. Although this does occur within the Earth-Human collective, the majority of natural hybridization comes into your experience as a higher dimensional or astral exchange of sexuality with entities. This is why many of you who have had dreams of intense sexuality with an extra-dimensional or terrestrial, and later having children, although your physical body never felt the sexual energy, positive or negative. Your physical body did not feel the implantation or the release of the sperm. Your physical body did not feel the after effects of either being pregnant or giving seed to get others pregnant. In that means, physically, your body did not create hybrids with these beings in your third density setting. But your body, that does not seem physical to you in this reality, in high fourth, fifth, and sixth densities, are quite physical. Just as we've expressed with our own experience, what we perceive when looking at other sixth density beings is just as physical as that in which you perceive your fellow human beings to be. Your own perspective of physicality is limited to your spectral vibration, frequency, and harmonic vibration. This allows all of you to perceive and peep only into your third density experience, and sometimes come out into the fourth density, as you are in that unique time period and structure called the third to fourth density exchange. Now, we will not dive deeply into that energy, but only to suffice by saying that the third to fourth density exchange only means that all of you are already fourth density beings. The third density mindset, the third density energy, and the third density beliefs that are carried by the entirety of the collective is what creates your third density experience. And that energy is shifting. Personally and individually, there are many of you who have peered deeply into fourth density multiple times since that shift and large energy did occur within your Earth collective. But many of you who have not have felt the energy of fourth density lurking around the corner, being atop of your own energy in that moment. Knowing this, you will know that all hybrid children that exist in higher dimensional do not make them less yours. They do not make them less connected to your own physical energy. Just as your body has DNA sequencing that can be extracted by all scientists, looked upon, and encoded and decoded energy, so too can your higher dimensional bodies, only more complex versions of that DNA. Most entities that come into the hybridization program are in fourth density or higher, meaning that they are only working with the components of astrality or shifting their own vibration down into a projected version or avatar of their physical body in order to create a physical connection with that person, albeit sexual, albeit the energy of extraction. That leads us to the second mechanical portion of how hybridization works: DNA splicing, or genetic enhancements, for lack of better terms. This is where physical bodies of human beings extract DNA from whatever race is hybridizing with him, taking certain markers of the genome and taking parts of the DNA out of the human genome and mixing it in with their own to create a new code, an entire new race. That energy is then either grown to full order till a child is born by implanting the mixture of the sperm from human and egg from extra-dimensional, or vice versa, or by simply placing it into what humans would perceive as a petri dish, and the petri dish then growing into sustainable cells, which are then grown into humanoid form. That is the mechanical way DNA splice. Thirdly, the higher dimensional co-created merging system properties. This is only done with certain races that are in 6th density and high 5th density. This is where two consciousnesses merge their own consciousness, and after one entity is in place where two once were, a part of that entity expels itself either directly or through the forms that most humans would know as a cell splitting, and by that conscious entity splitting itself into another form, a child or young energy is born. That entity takes on physicality and life as a splitting of DNA encoded. Now, all three of these forms of DNA hybridization do and can occur within the human collective. But even inside of those, there are still large spectrums. Again, bound by time of linear sense, we will work with the constructs lightly. But imagine each of those mechanics that we have shared with you have several thousands of iterations, possibilities, and probabilities for those energies to occur, meaning that as those who sexually connect, sperm and egg being mixed is one form. Another form of sexuality in astral projected state is sexuality into the higher dimensional body, and a child can be born. Differently, or thirdly, past that energy, there can be multiple sexual partners in one engagement, both of them either leaving their sperm with the female human being, the implanted egg then removed and taken to grow and to expand into a non-physical setting or a scientific laboratory setting and grow. Then there are other forms in which there are two females, both that extract sperm from the entity and merge their own physicality for the benefit of growing a child with multiple parents. Multiple parents in the second layer, or those that are DNA splicing, are self-explanatory for the majority of what we are sharing. The splicing of multiple genes of humans and multiple genes of extraterrestrials can be mixed into either the petri dish or created into fertilized egg and then grown inside of the body of that human being, or sometime extracted, put into the body of the other entity or a other entity in order to extract that own set of DNA, or simply to be a carrier. Literally, the list can feel endless to the human mind in what ways this hybridization works. Now, the mechanics, those different forms and ways to co-create this. Now, looking at the majority of those that are in the playing field of the co-creation of this with human beings. The majority of you know, as we've expressed previously, the Zeta Reticuli, and those entities work from multiple iterations or places. There are several waves of those that you call hybridized races, and those entities have created an entirety of race onto their own. For the first 200 years of Zeta Reticuli working with humans, extracting their DNA, those were the very first and initial beings. These are even predating those that are called Essassoni or Chicani by most human beings. These are what we would call iteration 0.5. Those are the founders of the hybridized races for the grey setting. After several modifications were made and several DNAs were then dissected, they found the emotional spectrum of those beings more so as the grey entities, which is the reason, or one great reason within multiple, that desire to create a human's world, to have larger emotional spectrums, as well as to circumvent the sterility of the entirety of the race of those that are grey hybrids. By doing this, they created the first race of watchers or guardsmen, and those beings would watch over the very first wave or true wave of hybrids known as Essosonia or Chiconi by some. These entities also having a spectrum of emotions closer to those of greys and humans than the next arrangement or the next group started. There were several iterations. Humans are only aware of the 3 iterations: the Essosonia, the Pleaidian in the second, and the Yaryel in the third. Since then, there have been more waves, since then, more races, and in between all iterations were several sub-iterations. So even for those that humans know greatest, the Essosonia and Yaryel components, there are multiple lines and waves of beings that ride within those groupings, those that we would call 3.1, the first engagement of those that were Yaryel, all the way to 3.95, which are the last batch that were co-created less than 20 years ago in your linear time, all the way to those being born now, are the closest form to human that are available, both in physicality, both in DNA, and within spectral emotional energy. And all of those races find that the new beings that come in from the Yaryel to co-create with humans are quite lovely and quite perfect. They are able to relate with humans. They are also able to share the great expansive fourth density heart chakra with human beings. By sharing and co-creating through channeled states and through direct and personal co-created cooperation, that energy of co-creating only becomes stronger. Now, of course, circumventing the death of your entire race or the ability to procreate is one energy and one ideal which most begin to hybridize themselves onto another race. But there are other entities, other groups, and other beings that desired to have different forms of energetic exchange. In that way, we would express the second group that are outside of the grey hybrid beings that were Zeta Reticuli onto another form of grey beings. Humans have been told through several sources that those that are Zeta Reticuli are the only grey beings, but this is not true. The grey archetype of energy and the physical structure is quite common. In fact, there are hundreds of grey races that work with human beings and several hundreds of thousands in this galaxy alone. And many of the other greys started working with humans after seeing the great success of the Zeta Reticuli energy and co-creation. Those entities work with humans for much different reasons. Yes, some of those with procreational issues, some that are dealing with desire to have larger spectral, emotional, energetic exchanges, but the majority are doing it so that they are able to share a great gift with the universe at hand, with all that is and with oneness. They see a great perfection and great flaw in humans from their own perspective. The great gift is the ability to manifest so strongly. When humans believe they are limited, they create an entire system of heavy limitation for themselves, yet showing the universe their manifestational skills and acquiring those skills. Secondly, they also desire to keep parts of themselves, and to mix themselves with humans gives them the opportunity to bring connection into the place where humans are disconnected, to bring a lineage of beings that when they wake their first day as a being who is born into their planetary consciousness, that these entities have the greatest parts of humans, but also are able to discern and to dissect their oneness. They feel innately connected, therefore not going through the emotional energies and struggles that humans perceive that they have in their experience. Going into other groups, there are reptilian races that work in hybridization of humans, working with desire to bring themselves into better alignment with either type 1 energetic exchanges or the type 2 semi-benevolent beings. By working from that energy, the reptilian beings often work in either the physical version of your body or working with slightly higher dimensional energy. And that is due to the nature of their own fifth density structure, knowing that it is sufficing to have over amounts of consciousness of those that are below them vibrationally in their perspective. Now, we have spoken about some of the groups, and there are multiple more, including Arcturian beings that are humanoid, Arcturian beings that in your own idea would be aquatic, Syrian beings that are also aquatic, Pleaidian beings that are humanoid by nature, and the list continues with those that hybridize in higher dimensional or physical forms. One moment we'll hydrate and continue. Their own excitement to do so allows them to bring forth what they desire to share with their own race, with the human race, and with others. Now, why are all of the races that you perceive in this moment coming into the human experience to share DNA? What makes humans so spectacularly special that they would create with humans? This is a multifold and multispectral question and answer as well. First of all, the energy behind the co-creation of your DNA allowed 12 different races' DNA to be activated within your own human form of DNA. Out of the 12 races, there were 7 energies that are related to the construct of being in the most singular form, and 5 those that are 50% hybridizations. This gave 12 different forms and races, and all of those have large capacity and compatibility with other races. For example, the Anunnaki have what we would call the 0.18% exchange in compatibility, which means that 1.8% of all other races in the entirety of the galaxy have the capacity to utilize DNA from Anunnaki and splice their DNA with other beings. The genetic masticism that occurred from their own race gave them the ability to expand the compatibility into even higher percentages when they worked directly and consciously with Anunnaki. Those that are of Syrian nature and humanoid form, also having high compatibility of mixing their DNA with other races sexually and creating hybridized versions of beings. So not only was your multi-dimensional DNA appropriate to place the hybridization at higher levels, lower levels, and in between levels, vibrationally speaking, and through your density hierarchy, for lack of better terms, but it also gives all beings that are involved the ability to dissect the components in which are most abundant and work with human form. So all of the energy spread outward, all of the energy is working as a co-creative measure, allows the hybridization. Now, we understand there are many more components that we are able to go through in order to share the ideals that are behind hybridization. But we will hand over the queries to you, Kalina, if you are ready.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so as far as hybrid children, by the way, guys, let me know if you can hear me clearly. If you can't, I'll move closer. Otherwise, I'm going to sit a little closer to where Lily's at. But either way, I'll be able to hear her, so don't worry. If you need me to move closer, just let me know. With that said, the first thing I heard you say, well, not the first thing, But one of the things that caught my eye was you said something about mixing in a petri dish. I don't know if you were just explaining it in a way that we could understand, but do they literally still use the concept of a petri dish to mix DNA?
Yes, of course. No, they are not using the technology of petri dishes. They are utilizing forms that are technologically advanced, and this was the closest simile that we were able to give to you, or not simile, the other word that represents something similar and representative.
That's what I thought. I'm curious to ask more about the technology, but part of me feels like entities won't want to be privy to give that information out right now because it is a very serious thing, the mixing of DNA, and it's a very, very high art and science, if you will. So I wanted to ask, let me see, I've got so many here, so I want to see which is. You mentioned there are some sexual and non-sexual experiences. I have a curiosity because some people might consider this kind of borderline inappropriate, but it wasn't inappropriate for me. I gave my own personal permission. But I remember agreeing to the hybrid child program even early on. I just kind of knew about it. And it happened as early as maybe even earlier, but as early as my preteens. I even went through puberty very, very early, and I suspect that it was because I was part of the hybrid child program. Even Rob went through puberty incredibly early, like I'm talking like 9, 10, very, very early. So my question is, because I had some sexual, I would call them astral experiences maybe, and I do feel some non-sexual. I even remember waking up when I was about 12 or 13 and just knowing that I was pregnant, and I even went upstairs and told my mom about it, and it freaked her out. And then I guess she just thought I was crazy. And then about 2 or 3 days later, I walked up and I was sad, and I said, well, they took the baby, which was like more like, dividing cells, I feel at that point. But it was very magical to feel those two experiences and knowing that that's happened multiple times, but in different ways, not in the same way with it being in uterus. But anyway, I'm getting long-winded. I guess what I'm trying to say or ask is what is the commonalities of the hybrid children being co-created? I know it might be different than this was like back in the 80s and the 90s, so it might be very different now. What are the age groups, the commonalities, what's considered appropriate, basically that whole gamut of questions could you get into, and how would it be considered appropriate for, say, someone as young as I was?
Yes, of course. First of all, the age construct is an ideal created in your Earth collective consciousness, knowing the appropriate mindset and mental state of those human beings who are first knowing or exploring their own sexuality, and those who are abusive with their sexuality. So by creating the age system for sexuality in Earth in your modern years, it gives you the opportunity to make your children safe. That energy was not around in the Earth collective, at least for 50 years previously in the majority of the world, and 100 years in certain parts of the Earth. So that energy is of a newer consequence and co-creative energy. When human beings are younger and they are going through puberty and working with hybridization, there can be removal of eggs or sperm, but never so in a sexual manner in those that are grey, that are the majority of the hybridization programs. There are certain reptilians who work in astral projected states in sexuality, but never in physical form. Often what does occur is when the area of the second chakra becomes stimulated when working with the extraction of eggs or sperm, then your third layer of dream state will allow you to co-create a sexual energy so that it is understood what is occurring. And it is not considered foul or intrusive for those who've agreed in their higher fractal consciousness. In fact, the majority of those astral projected states that do occur, there is verbal permission given in each moment when sexuality occurs, and that is forgotten by the lower fractal consciousness. And the ages that are appropriate are different for each human being. When a human has understood and cultivated their sexuality physically, then a physical sexual encounter can occur. But when they are still finding their way through sexuality, as messy as that feels as a human being in their younger ages, then only astral projected or DNA removal of that being would occur. And puberty, the activation of the second chakra in a larger and more flowing way for the human beings, is the marked age for the beginning participation. Also remind you, most of the beings who work with humans are linearly not working at the same capacity that humans are. So if you are 12, for example, and working in a hybridization program and are having extractions created, the version of you who is older in your higher fractal self, or the fifth density version of the projected body of yourself, or the sixth density projected version, can experience the age of being older and saying, yes, my younger self and I are at one. My younger self and I know. And this is the part of the activation that we can be a part of up into this level. No sexuality but extracting of the egg, or physical interactions only extracting certain components and then being covered with screen memory or having a projected version of that third layer dream state. So each individual connection or co-creation is different from human to human and always looked upon on larger scales. Even those who are considered malevolent in nature, who hybridize themselves with human beings for the benefit of their own race, do not go past a certain level of intrusiveness for human beings. Now, there are many human beings who have related to others that they were raped as they are sleeping, or they were forced to have sexual encounters. Again, this is either a projected version of themselves in third layer dream state as they are agreeing in their own mind that they did not agree to that co-creation, when in fact it is only the work of their lower fractal self trying to make sense of what is occurring in the higher dimensional energy. This is the same as dreams as all of you have that seem crazy to you, where there are birds walking down the street talking to you and going to bank with you and drawing out money with you. All of these things are perhaps ludicrous in your mind, but that is the leftover remnants of your mental body trying to make sense of what is happening in higher dimensional form that humans cannot comprehend. You have no place of reference for what does and is occurring in higher dimensional form. Therefore, whatever you can make out of that experience, you will try to project in either a coded way or nonsensical way in your third layer dream state.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
And I just wanted to share, you had mentioned like screen out. It's funny you brought up the screen memory, but even the experience with a couple of the entities merged a screen memory of another particular entity, which I won't get into. I'll get into that later. But and I didn't feel deceived. It was just to make it a positive experience, but it was the heart center. And you're right, there was that older fifth dimensional self of mine. It was just very loving and very positive, very, very beautiful experience for me. And I feel very blessed because I gave my permission. There's definitely, I knew, even in the, it was like, seemed like a dream, but it wasn't. Not like a dream in the sense that most people describe it as. But there was definitely a ship, and that came down, and it was a beautiful experience. And my heart goes out to those that feel like they've been traumatized or been through a lot. So hopefully, it gives a little bit more perspective for anyone that might feel like they might not have given their permission, because I feel like the majority of the time people have on some soul level given permission, correct, Aridif, when it comes to the hybrid child program? About what percentage would you say is given permission?
Yes, all entities give permission upon one level or another, consciously and in your conscious mind. There are very low percentages of human beings who do agree. You are one of the lower percentages. You are knowledgeable that there was mixture of races and gave all permission accordingly in the lower fractal consciousness. Even those whose higher fractal energies or higher density versions of themselves that say no, we do not wish to take part, and then a malevolent being still engages through sexuality, that is considered rape, and that is considered taking away your free will. But in the higher fractal consciousness, all things that manifest are agreed upon a soul level. In the higher fractal consciousness always gives permission. The higher dimensional selves, or the lower fractal, that do not give their permission are still staggeringly low percentages, less than 4% of every hybridization that has occurred within the Earth Collective. Those are those beings that are human, that feel as if they are raped or advantaged and taken advantage of. And we understand the trauma that this can and has caused for many.
Yeah,
so we are not making a light words from this, but we are sharing that in higher fractal consciousness, regardless of your beliefs or experiences, that there is always permission to co-create or to manifest co-creation, even with negative consequence in your emotional or mental state.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I always like to emphasize, that agreement coming from the higher fractal self, and then the lower fractal selves, us coming down and having this experience very bravely and having amnesia to what we may have agreed upon. It doesn't take away from the trauma at all, or even the feelings of victimization, or wanting the experience to heal from it, or even having the opportunity to say, no, I don't want this experience, I'm going to co-create a different one. Have that absolute right, I feel, as a fractal, for sure. If it doesn't line up with you, if you don't want to be in that the belief system and that experience with the higher self decisions. That's how I see it anyway.
Yes, of course. We perceive it in similar ways and highly resonant to this construct.
So I was a bit surprised, maybe I've just never heard it before, but you had pertained the word Draconi with Esasani. When you say that, do you mean Draconi, like as in Draco, Draconi? And why would you call him that if there's a relation there at all?
No, we are saying the word Chakani.
Oh, Chakani, okay.
Yes.
It surprised me when I heard that. I'm like, oh.
Yes, there are the Esasani, the Sasani, the Chakani, the Echkani. These are all different iterations and names given throughout your generational understanding of the hybridization that occurred.
That's what I thought. Is there any reason why twice I misheard you?
Yes, you are connected with your own energetic understanding of multiple things. In your mind, the curiosity about the draconian hybridizations was strong.
Yeah, very true. So as far as, and I think I already know the answer to this, but why do the gray hybrid races, we'll just kind of bulk them in, at least for the most part, seek out the larger emotional spectrums that humans have?
Yes, of course. First of all, understanding and knowing that the energy of emotion is important for their race due to their past is vitally important for you to understand, to perceive, and to know before entering this subject more deeply. The history of those that are Zeta Reticuli was that they were experiencing a life in the higher matrice. And when they were experiencing the higher matrice, their own energy was lost to what humans might call panic or greed planetary consciousness. The utilization of technology became very high, and that utilization took some of their own planetary energy becoming spoiled or becoming hazardous to them. Their own hazardous environment of the technology created sterility within all of them, and not being able to produce other children, they took means to fix their physical bodies, to adapt it more so to the hazmat version of that energy. And as they were working upon themselves, not only did the sterility become worse, but also the emotional spectrum shrunk drastically and became overly analytical. That was something that in that moment they did not care about. They could not care about, as their emotions were not complex enough to see that as a huge problem. They were trading in that emotional energy for more complex mental patterns. And in that energy, after several generations passed on and no generations new took up, they started looking for their new home. And by going into the lower matrices in order to work with Earth Collective Consciousness, they were in fact going to their version of a home in the lower matrix. And that version of DNA and humans was compatible because they are the same version of beings. These could be perceived as a parallel future version of human beings. Human beings' DNA in their multitude of higher dimensional versions and their multidimensionality was only a bonus for that interaction. That interaction also began to allow them to see their mistakes, creating a lesser version of emotions, to create a lesser version of physicality due to their enhancements. And that allowed them to perceive much of their energetic mistakes from their own perspective.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Now, would hybridizing be seen by many other galactic races as cheating a certain race's growth by attaining higher density levels or certain DNA strands?
Yes, there are several races throughout the entire galactic collective consciousness that are completely against hybridization of any kind. They do not wish for races to co-create with one another due to the nature of multiple points and ideologies. One of the stronger ideologies as far as population goes, those that are higher in the number of beings who feel this certain way, do so from what you've expressed. The cheating of evolution, the jumping forward of multiple races, and the problems that are caused by doing so. In fact, many of the human imbalances that occur in this moment have occurred from their own selves being jumped too highly or to be jumped too far. The natural form of evolution for the Earth collective consciousness circumvented several thousand years of growth and expansion. This was perceived as a negative consequence and was felt later by many humans as a negative consequence. It was an enhancement and part of your Earth collective's agreement as an entire planetary collective consciousness and all of the individuals' higher fractal consciousness agreement for this to occur. We are able to perceive this, but those races who did not perceive it said that you had taken away their own free will and you had taken away their own possibility to engage with being able to make that decision for themselves.
Thank you.
Yes, and there are multiple other races with multiple ideologies in why. Some of those are similar to the racist upon your own planet, where all genetic lineages should stay pure, that only evolution that comes from a planet to that race should be the deciding factor of the physical changes.
Yes.
There are also those whose ideology is that when you create too many differences in the physical body, that the soul cannot cling on to the entirety of the experience, therefore loses creative flow.
Mm-hmm.
All forms of these ideologies are in multitudes, but those are some of the most popular versions.
As I was writing the question earlier, I heard some entities come to me and say it was simply that they wanted to have different experiences than what they had been put in originally, if that makes sense. The original design, they wanted to change it up a little to have different experiences, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. It's like, I was born brown hair. I like to dye my hair red a lot. I just want to have a bit of a different experience. I know it's a very simplified way to put it, but it's just simply wanting to have a different experience.
Yes, we understand. And there are two ways for what humans perceive as a mutation of genetics to occur. One, and most common, the natural form of mutation. This occurs when the forces around you in the Earth planetary consciousness for humans were to change drastically, and those beings could not survive in a new environment unless the genetics became mutated. And that is what most humans call natural evolution. That is the first sense of energy. And mechanically, if you look upon it at a higher dimensional version and through the eyes of the higher fractal consciousness, all that this is the desire for the beings to change their mode and pattern of living and change into a different physical structure. As the planet changes, so too the inhabitants must, in order to adapt, but also in order to experience new things. The second is hybridization. There are more than this, but these are the two majority of over 99.98% of all mutations in DNA.
1 second. Savita says she can't hear or see anything, but it looks fine from my end. I'm just letting her know to refresh. I think the baby's stirring. Oh, baby.
Yes, and there's one query remaining. After you comfort the child, we will take the last query.
If you can, I actually had 2 more if you have time.
Yes, that is acceptable.
Important for
we will wait for Lilith to come and co-create with us. Yes, of course.
She might stir again. She just fell back asleep. She does that sometimes. She'll cry, and then she'll pass out. Babies can cry in their sleep, by the way, guys. I read about it. It's crazy. Okay, so this question, it only is a question if the Draconians are one of the races that believe it's cheating and believe that they shouldn't be, there shouldn't be so much hybridizing. And if that's true, why would they have allowed or agreed for the gray races to basically hop aboard with them and go to the other the lower matrix? Because as far as you've told us, or that I recall, they're the only ones that really know, or one of the only few that know how to go through the matrices like that.
Yes, of course. They are one with technological advancements which allow the traveling of large groups of entities to go from one matrix to another. This is how those that are Zeta Reticuli came into your matrix with the help of draconian beings. First of all, you are correct in one way. The energy of those that are Alpha Draconians do perceive a cheat to have occurred when beings are enhanced genetically, but they do not judge that cheat. They do not perceive it as less than or negative. They only perceive it as a lack of ambition and ability to grow.
They like to earn.
Yes, of course. And in that energy, they will not stop or step in the way of certain genetic hybridizations, whether it be of the physical nature through evolution or through hybridization of the entities and changes. But the energies that do occur within their own understanding are still looked at as less than what they are. If you look at the conscious evolution by far, the Draconian beings are the furthest evolved beings within our entire galactic collective consciousness, as they have spent more times and iterations of co-creating with the physical natural forms of evolving.
Time to eat, you honeys.
Greetings, Lilith. This is Aridif.
Artist, hi to you. Hey, baby. Ready for food? Go.
Yes, and once you are settled, we will take our final query for this evening.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, of
I
course.
did want to make one comment, though, when you said they weren't entirely against it or wouldn't interfere. I want to say that's as long as there aren't racists stealing their own genetic material, that really pisses them off, because that happened to them, and they did mess with others by that. Like the whole creation of Treb's race, they didn't like. Well, that didn't have their DNA, but you know what I mean.
Yes, of course. The Anunnaki were ones who took their own DNA from an accidental version of reaping that DNA, and this also caused turmoil. You are highly correct within this construct. Their own DNA is seen to be holy and only given out at their judgment.
That's funny because remember that, I don't want to give it away, but there's an episode of Orville where there are reptilians who perceive themselves that way, so maybe there's like an inner joke there, inside joke there.
Yes, it is a picking up of the collective consciousness and within your grid system. The writers of many of your science fiction shows are tapping into the ether.
Oh yeah, they definitely channel. Star Trek definitely channeled a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So you had mentioned the Anunnaki, which is funny because that goes into my next question. And basically you mentioned earlier like master DNA races, and I don't know who messed it up. Anunnaki, Elohim, or many of the other races, but I've always felt the theory as far as how hard the reproductive system is on, and particularly with human women, how many of us, myself included, especially the women in my family, but there's just a lot of women that die in childbirth and throughout the ages, and I know people have different belief systems that are listening to this, but I believe that the way that our bodies are set up, some of it's a bit counterintuitive, like the risk with labor, like for instance with mine, I had a ton of experiences, and like even the smaller pelvic region not being able to pass the baby through, that runs in my family. Then of course there's things like just weird things like preeclampsia, just there's a whole host, even like if a woman is Rh negative, it's just, we have technologies that really help us along. And then even after birth, there's all this bleeding that goes on, and in this very physical world, if you think about that, that's not very safe to bleed for 4 weeks, straight. So I guess just the scientist in me wants to pick that apart and understand why that wasn't a little bit more, because if you even read in the Bible that's seen as a punishment, and of course I don't believe in punishment and all of that stuff. I feel like there were some mistakes made in the genetics, and there's just so many different races, and I feel like there are just some loose ends that haven't been tied yet, and that over time our bodies throughout evolution will, as we get more into the fifth density bodies, these will get better. And I actually see the technology. Lilith and I don't think we'd be here today without technology. So to me, it's an external 5D manifestation. We got to have hybridized experience. Well, when I make my video, it'll make more sense to you guys. I don't want to get into it too much. This is the last question, but let's just go into the thing about what happened with that. It is my theory right about the many deaths that women have had. Most women, they can have beautiful natural births, from what I understand, and connect, but many of us also can't. Like I was a breech baby. Had my mother not had that technology, I might have died. My mom might have died. So there's just a lot there. I just want to know what's really the cause behind the complications with human childbirthing that can sometimes arise versus others that are beautiful home births, which, is wonderful. I'll just leave it there. I'm sorry, that's very long-winded, but it's really been, I feel like it's important for us to know as a collective what's going on with that.
Yes, we understand. This question is several-fold. First of all, yes, you are correct. The multiple forms of DNA that are within you, some of them are butting up against one another. Some of them are counterproductive with other aspects of the DNA that is within them. That energy at the last two iterations of DNA manipulations within humans did cause forms of resistance in the physicality. This is a small part of a large puzzle. The larger parts consist of multiple things, the belief systems that humans carry about, the treachery and possible illnesses and deaths within birth plays a great part of energetic lending to the energies behind. And as you are aware, once belief becomes ingrained in the entirety of a collective, then so too does it seep into your DNA and genetics. That is why your family has history, multiple millions of years of energies that are compiled through your linear lives stacked upon one another. And that energy creates also a disharmony of energetic processing. Also, the energy behind the fears that are accompanied with the birthing mother and those around them. There are multiple reasons that these issues do occur, and DNA do play a part, but a smaller part than most humans would imagine.
So, I definitely feel like a lot of trauma was released through the birthing process.
Yes, of course.
I chose to see it as a positive experience because she's here, she's healthy. But what is it about mothers and babies like us? Like, what is that common thread that causes us to have complications? Is there something that be done for people like us, or is it just something we needed to experience via our soul agreements, soul contracts?
Yes, first of all, it is different for each individual human. Yes, of course, parts are played about the lack of compatibility with certain components of your DNA, others from energetic stacking of multiple lifetimes, pain, sorrow, suffering, etc. But each human individually quite different depending upon the energy. Some are contractual, such as those who are born in stillborn, or those who die soon after being birthed, or mothers dying and children living. Those energies are contractual in nature majoritatively. There are also components of your own belief systems, those belief systems around you, etc., for you specifically. And if you desire, we will share this within your public format.
Sure, absolutely. Share away.
Yes. Now, within your own construct of energy, the entity that you know as Lilith was not picky about how she came into the earth as long as she came into the parents, family, and energetic properties that she did. Some of the trauma that occurred within your own birthing process was so that you could release a great deal of trauma that occurred during your own birthing process as you were a child. A great deal of that energy also came to your own fears, your own inadequacies, Rob's own fears and his own inadequacies. Rob having different reasons. Yours was for the fear of safety of yourself and your child, the safety of the medical practice versus natural, and Rob's his own from his son's trauma and birthing. So all of that energy compiled, created the hardship for you so that you could transmute, and also so that you could show yourself the power of your fears, beliefs, etc. This is a very common reason and theme. In fact, if you are to look at all of the birthing difficulties that do occur within the Earth Collective, putting the genetic portion and the DNA portion and trauma portion from your family through epigenetics, placing all of those aside, The majority of humans have difficult births for the exact same reasons that you did, transmuting their own personal trauma and fears and inadequacies that are rolled in to the co-creating of the birthing process. There are many times where the soul entering as a baby is also transmuting past life energies, past life traumas that occurred within their births. Some human being babies that are being born now had died as young children or at the birthing process and desired to allow co-creation, knowing that their own mother would have difficulties upon their own mental or emotional states, or transmuting their own birth process and allowing themselves to be a part of the co-creation so that they too can transmute the pains of their previous incarnations. Most who do this are young souls, or not young souls in the way humans perceive. Young, by our own definition, means a soul that goes out of physical reality for shorter periods of time and jumps right back in without integrating enough of their higher fractal consciousness to see a larger picture. Your entity Lilith was not one of those.
No, she was very old.
Yes, of course, and also well trained between previous incarnation and this, with a desire of what she wishes to do.
Yeah.
So in that case, this is not the same, but the majority of births are very similar to the constructs.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I don't even know how to explain it. As weird and traumatic as it was, the being cut open and having her go through that, and I was a cesarean baby too, and it was almost as if the cutting open, it's like this energy stuff that got trapped in my third chakra, probably my second also, came out literally. It was weird. I don't even know how to explain it. It sounds so negative to others, but it was felt positive for both. It felt like, for whatever reason, it was like it was all these different lives that we would have spent maybe working through something, just kind of in that moment, boom, we just dealt with it. But I mean, I'm curious, if we ever were to have another child, do I just sign up for a cesarean, or just kind of see if I can have a natural birth? I know it might sound crazy to consider, but I'm like, do I really believe that my pelvic region could be too small? Do the doctors really know that?
Yes, of course. First of all, looking at this, as you are well aware, we will never tell you which to decide,
no, I know
but
you can't do that.
we will share with you that there are many probabilities that would allow a birthing process that does not require surgery.
Yeah?
Yes, of course. Over 28% of all probabilities show that it is possible within your future lineage at this moment, and it was a lower number previously. In your 2 weeks past time, it would have been much lower.
That's interesting too, and I mean, who knows? Even there might be a technology manifest for others.
Yes, of course. As you are all aware, it is our time to disconnect for this evening, but before disconnecting, we wish to express that as we have explored the integrated process of those that are hybridized children, we will express that many of you with your own personal experiences may not be applicable to the subjects, reasons, or mechanics that we were speaking of. In that way, we suggest that you look deeply into your own hybridization and your own part that you play. Your intuition will serve you greatly as long as there are no fears and anxieties behind that energy. We also wish to express another adieu for you, Kalina, as it is a great expression to have co-created with you yet again, and also greetings to Lilith. Jeremy is also well aware of our own greetings, but we are speaking to him at a much different level. Thank you for your co-creation in this evening to all of you. Not only are all of you loved, but we love you as well.
Thank you, dear sweet Arda.
Yes, of course.
Too. We love you.
Yes.
You are loved, and we'll talk to you again probably tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yes, of course. We will be in co-creative form in the morrow at your expression.
And technically today I'll bet. No, it's still 11, so
yes.
It'll be tomorrow.
And in our next journey in co-creating, the in-depth product of energy. We will express much different subject and go far in depth with it as well. We bid you adieu for this evening.
Adieu, dear artist.
You are loved.
You are loved. And as Rob was coming back, one of the reasons I wanted to ask that last question with the Anunnaki is because if you think about it, we're hybrids too.
Hi, Lily.
Lily's here. She's had some of my milk that I pumped. No. She's refusing this one. Not my milk, of course not. Right. My milk is awesome.
She's eating a latte. She might just be all fussy with gas or something too.
She is. I don't know if you guys can hear her grunting.
Oh, poor baby.
She's a little bit congested.
That'll grab her after I ground a little.
Yeah, she needs to be burped.
Oh, I'm a burp master.
He is a burp master. If she has gas, he'll get it out.
I have over 20 years experience of burping about 10 different kids. Some of you might not know, my day job when I first started channeling was a babysitter of 6 children ranging from the age of 6 months to 7 years old. So I am a burp master.
Yeah. Right now she's trying to master a poop.
Oh, sweet girl. That'll get you in the
As you guys might know, getting the digestive system in is very important. I have her on some probiotics, especially made for babies. It's called Love Bug. It's really helped her a lot. It's great stuff. Because, I had to be put on antibiotics. God, lucky me, I also had tested positive for, what was it called? Root B strep, whatever it was called, which I think about 20% of women, like everybody tests positive from what I understand every now and then. I just happen to be on that round. So lots of experiences for that. And I don't know if you guys know this, because I guess you wouldn't because I haven't done my video, but I was starting out beautifully on having semi-natural birth as natural as you can when you're getting induced early. But I was quite dilated before things got crazy. So it was really interesting. I can't wait to have the chance to tell you guys about it. But I hope you don't mind that last bit in the end. I felt like it was important for us to know some of the history with the genetics and the DNA, and I can't remember if Aridif got into if it was Anunnaki or the Elohim or some other. I think it's just a mixture of the different races. But we create our own realities, right? So I think all those kinks will get worked out in time. Isn't that right, sweet girl? She's so cute, guys. I hope we have the camera up tomorrow in time to show her to you. She's super tired right now. But once Rob comes back, he'll grab her and burp, and we'll have a little chat while he does that, and then I'll change her, and then see if you guys have any questions or comments, and then then we'll get ready to go to bed. So we have an appointment tomorrow. So yeah. She's smiling, guys. It's the most beautiful experience. I know some of you guys will go to when we have the next live channel panel, which we'll see how it goes. I'd like to believe we could get one in December. We'll see what happens, whether it's online or live. But I cannot wait for you guys to meet her. She's just so sweet. Yes, you are. You are a sweet girl. Literally the light of my life, guys. We feel very, very blessed. I'm sure that those of you guys that have kids, you know what I mean. And if you don't have kids, definitely reach out, get to know them. They're just magical. They really are. Sounds like Rob will be coming out soon. He's still grounding, I can tell. What did you guys think? Did you guys get your questions answered with the hybrid children stuff? Was there anything else that you guys wanted covered later on? I actually want to see if Rob can channel. I actually have a hybrid twin sister, if you can believe. That's another story for another day. But she's hybridized, and she actually worked with the hybrid child program. And I think it would be wonderful to have Rob channel her and have her talk about it. Baby.
We're still on?
Yeah, we're still on.
All right, everybody.
Unless I'm rambling to myself.
Yes, all right. All right, guys. We're gonna jump off. I got ground, and we got a little grumpy baby. So we're gonna. Well, no, but she's just gassy.
She just needs a diaper change.
Right. So anyway, guys, we're gonna go. We're gonna get this done. We will see all of you tomorrow for the Q&A. The day after that for the July in depth, and the day after that for the July Q&A, guys.
Yeah.
We love you guys so much. Thank you all for being here tonight.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Yeah, thank you guys. We love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Love you guys. Change. Oh.